Sucharita Chattopadhyay to share her thoughts.
Thank you very much for having me here and allowing me to share my thoughts. Right at the outset, let me tell you these are mere thoughts. I don't have a very structured presentation. But since we are having the Spark project ongoing now, and it is on academic social responsibility in humanities, we have been dwelling on this concept for a few days. We have been having exchanges with people, discussing amidst ourselves. And what I'll talk about today is I'll be sharing the essence of some of these discussions, which we have had at various levels, not just with faculty members, but with budding scholars, younger minds who have clearer ideas at times. So that's what I would like to share with you. So when we talk about academic social responsibility, first let me begin with some of the words we came across in the first presentation here, like cognitive reorientation. Yes, cognitive reorientation is much needed because with time things are evolving. The sociological patterns are changing, practices are changing, realities are changing. And if we stay stuck at where we started from maybe 10 years back, we'll only be holding ourselves back. So cognitive reorientation, refocusing, revising our priorities, that is an essential part of evolution. It's important to be aware of the fact that what was of prime importance 10 years back may have lost a lot of its importance now. Something which we were not even aware of 10 years back could be a very, very, what should I say, almost a life and death problem in the present day. So we have to be aware and open to these ideas. There's another phrase that we came across, address epistemic injustice. Well, injustices have been there historically, injustices are still there, but we need to prioritize which injustice we can actually counter under the present circumstances. So there lies a decision making requirement. We need to prioritize, we need to take a conscious decision. If I divert a bit from here, I would just like to refer to global warming. As I was just telling Dan and John today, sorry about that again. I'm following Shanton's papa. Anyway, so I was looking through some old papers and I came across a 2005 publication on the importance of global warming and the warnings that come with it. We are right here in the middle of global warming, suffering in unimaginable ways, and I was really surprised that somebody way back in, not a big name, somebody way back in 2005 has published a book, and it is probably like in my own house, it was probably lying in, or still probably lying on somebody's top shelf, never to be opened. So these are prioritizations that we need to make. We need to wake up to what is important. Coming down to academic social responsibility and the discussion I have had with people over the last few days, one very common perspective that I came across is that a lot of people believe, rightly so I would say, that we need to give back to society. We need to give back to society. How is what we need to decide, because the how will not be a constant in the case of every individual. That is very, very contextual, very positional, very locational. Each individual from his or her position, location, reality will have a different perspective. We cannot really expect people to have a very blanket kind of reaction about what to give back, how to give back. Our perspectives would differ according to our positional reality. The other thing is that should we not be looking at a more holistic view of life? We generally look at life in small pockets. Yes, the city is at the center, but even if I concentrate on the city, does it have a very holistic picture? Not really. The city is also made up of individual small pockets which are completely different from each other, which have different challenges, different realities, different requirements. So very broadly we can say the city is at the center and there are smaller places in the margins. But there is absolutely no unity or uniformity even within the city. That is something we need to look at. And for that, we have to look back at history, because history gives us very important lessons. And we can avoid a lot of mistakes if we look back at history. And in this context, again, a tiny diversification. A person that I keep referring back to over and over again who has taught us a lot about life, Niccolo Machiavelli. Niccolo Machiavelli. Think about Machiavelli and what Machiavelli said, and so much of it is applicable today to all of us in our different contexts, in our different realities. It is. And when we look at academic social responsibility also, we need to look at life from the perspective of Niccolo Machiavelli at the end of it. So that is something I would also like to point out, but that was just moving aside a bit. We have to learn to be aware of and respect the realities of others. Be patient, be willing to know. Don't jump to the conclusion that A's, B's and C's realities are the same as your own reality. They usually will not be. So we have to be aware and willing to learn and respect. Only with respect will come acknowledgement. If we don't respect, we will not even acknowledge. We'll just be aware. I would like to make a difference between being aware and acknowledging. There's a lot of difference between being aware and acknowledging. There would be overlaps. There would be interactions where we find some things are similar, some things are very, very different. So we should move ahead and try to understand the differences, not negate them, not try to ignore them. And often we may come across a situation where we may want to change our priority. We may have to, if we are true to ourselves, we may have to acknowledge that no, what I was practicing was wrong. This is a better alternative. That possibility is always there and we have to be open to that. This brings me to another favorite phrase of mine, a cross-cultural exchange, which only teaches us a lot. And through the cross-cultural exchange, very often we also discover ourselves. So when we talk about academic social responsibility, a lot of it would remain unaddressed if we do not have adequate experience. And translation, of course, plays a very, very important role in this cross-cultural exchange. If we talk about India, we talk about diversity of languages, we need to rely on translation. If we talk about the world, we need to rely on translation again. So it's present at both the levels. I won't take a lot of time, but the other thing that I wanted to address is that very consciously, probably, we need to do away with hierarchy, which I think Jonas and Dan, both of them have referred to. Hierarchy, social hierarchy, cultural hierarchy. Even within academia, we have a certain degree of hierarchy. Proper sharing cannot be possible if hierarchy is there looking over our shoulders like Big Brother. So that hierarchy has to be addressed very carefully, and along with hierarchy also hegemony. Also hegemony. If we talk about hegemony, do we ever question ways of overcoming the hegemony? Ought we not question some of the hegemony? And if we question the hegemony, we should also be ready to provide alternatives to the hegemony. What is the alternative? A widening of perspective is needed, which can be gained through experience, through exposure, and what I started with initially, a very acute awareness of and acknowledgement of positional reality, locational reality, consciousness, the need to contextualize. We should not jump to conclusions without really contextualizing a person or a situation or a problem or a challenge. The context, when we read a text, we always refer to the context. The context is all important because that is what produces a text. In our case, it could be practices, it could be belief, it could be a faith. But we need to understand the context. The last thing that we would like to, we ought to be keeping in mind is the value system. Values are always changing. Values are never static. What worked for my grandfather did not work for my father. What worked for my father did not work for me. And I don't expect it to work for my subsequent generations. We have a tendency, at least in India, we have a tendency of holding on to our forefathers' values. Their realities were different. That may become disastrous. What worked so wonderfully for them may become disastrous for us. So these are the awarenesses that I would like to stress upon when we talk about academic social responsibility, and also end with highlighting the fact that respect, acknowledgement, appreciation, these are essential concepts which would allow us to engage with others. I'm not going into majority, minority, mainstream, marginal, but anybody else on an equal footing. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chattopadhyay. She has brought into my mind the ethico-political dimension of such projects like academic social responsibility or mapping minor intellectual traditions. So there are many Kolkatas within Kolkata. So there are, many spaces of exception perhaps, many marginalities within Calcutta itself. So what would Calcutta look like if we look at from the perspective of a migrant laborer? So that is one thing. So what we are proposing actually is not that minority or minor is a fixed category. That is not. The category minor can be viewed from various angles. It can be spatial, it can be viewed from the perspective of caste, from language, in terms of religion, class. So there are different axes from which we can go ahead. But the point which is important is that of counter hegemonic practice. So hegemony is never an established project. It is a processual. It is a process actually, and there would be always counter hegemonic processes. And perhaps it is by listening to the other, learning from the other, and unlearning from the other that maybe we can contribute to that counter hegemonic process. So thank you, Professor Chattopadhyay.